Hi everyone, today we're going to talk about how to better be able to read food labels. So that includes like the nutrition facts part of the label and then the actual ingredients that are included in that as well. So it's really important when it comes to reading food labels because you're trying to find out what exactly you're going to get out of that product. So to start, if it has a food label on it, usually that means in most cases, like it's been processed in some sort of way. So, a lot of produce and things that you're finding on the outside of the stores, it's not labeled because it's fresh. The ingredients are obvious. Like if you're purchasing Brussels sprouts, you're just getting the Brussels sprouts, that sort of thing, or carrots. Those might come in a bag or something and have some sort of information on them, but usually if you're getting some sort of produce or meat item, then for most cases you're purchasing that and they don't need to have an actual ingredient label. If you're interested in finding out the nutrition facts about that specific fruit, vegetable, or meat product, you can go online, usually in Google, the specific, carbs, fats, proteins sort of thing, and that's pretty readily available. Or you can use like dieting apps like MyFitnessPal or something like that and put it in there and find out the nutrition facts there. So if you're buying something with a label, we always encourage patients first to look at the sugars, is what I always go for first, because that's the biggest problem with a lot of processed foods. There's a lot of sugar, and in particular there's a lot of added sugar. So there's also a difference there between items. So if something says sugars, that doesn't necessarily mean it's coming from I could say a bad source. It could be coming from like a whole fruit source or something along those lines. The added sugar is where you really want to pay attention to. So added sugar means it's not occurring naturally and they specifically added sugar to that product. So you want to look at the grams for that in particular when you are looking at a label. So I'll kind of show an example here of that. And it might be backwards for you guys, I'm sorry. But so here's a nutrition label, okay? So at the top you have the servings per container. So you always want to check that out and make sure that you're eating the serving size. Then under the servings per container, you are going to see the serving size right there. And then under that, you're going to have the calories per serving. So calories meaning like calories are giving us energy from our food. So that's where you want to look for the calories there. A lot of times, a lot of people will get wrapped up in like calorie counting and that sort of thing. And, if that works for you, that's an okay thing to do. But really, we encourage patients to actually just focus on getting good sources of good food and eating those, having those plentiful in your diet. So as long as you're not over consuming anything, really, because fat has more calories per gram than any other macronutrient, and macronutrients are just proteins, fats, and carbs, and fat has 9 calories per gram of fat. So essentially, just naturally, your fattier foods are going to be technically higher calorie because they just have more energy in them. So paying attention to the source of that is going to be important. So like if you're consuming a high fat food that's like processed oils and things like that, then obviously those are the type of calories we don't want to consume. But if you're having like an avocado or some nuts and seeds, that sort of good fat, those are just naturally going to be higher calorie. So that's the calorie section. And then broken down below that, the first thing we have is total fat. So total fat is going to obviously be the number of grams of fat in that. Usually listed below that in a nutrition label is saturated fat and your trans fat. So saturated fat gets a bad rep. It's associated with things like heart disease and all of that. So saturated fat is not necessarily bad if it's coming from a good place. So things like good sources of meat, eggs, that sort of thing are good sources of saturated fat. Trans fat is something we do want to avoid. Trans fat is highly processed fats and oils, so we want to make sure we're not consuming those. Then cholesterol, sodium, keeping our added unhealthy cholesterol and unhealthy sodium at a reduced level is important. And then total carbohydrates. So within the carbohydrate group, you're going to have that's where your fiber and your sugars are going to be listed. So when it comes to eating a high fat, high protein diet, naturally your carbohydrates are going to stay on the lower side. So when you're consuming higher fat, higher protein foods, that number naturally is just going to be a low number. I always say everyone kind of has their happy medium. So for example, my body and myself, I'm comfortable and at a good number of carbs when I'm eating about anywhere from, like 70 to 100 grams of carbs a day. Depends on the day, what I'm doing, the activities, all of that. So that's important to know too, that everybody is different. So find out kind of your happy medium with carb intake. And if you're focusing on weight loss, that's something you really do want to focus on, is how many carbs a day you're eating, because reducing that number overall is going to help your body start to burn fat instead of store it. All right, so then under that you have fiber, which is an important part of our diet. And then under that you have total sugars and included added sugars. So that's what I'm talking about when you want to look at those, specifically at the included added sugars, and the total sugars overall is important. But so for this item, so I'm not specifically sure what this is. Something that I printed off that just made it a nice big label. But so this has a total sugar of 25 grams, okay? So then below that listed under there is included added sugars, and that's listed at 23 grams. So most of that sugar of this product is added sugar. So then the next thing that I would do is go to the ingredients list and find out what source that's coming from. So is it table sugar? Is it high fructose corn syrup? Is it regular corn syrup? Is it honey? Is it maple syrup? What is entailing those added sugars? Okay, so then I would look at that, and if it's some sort of source I'm not comfortable with, or I know is not a good source, then I'm probably putting that product back on the shelf. And then below that is your protein in grams as well, and that again is another very important macronutrient. Then listed below those things, you're going to have what you call your micronutrients, which are your vitamins and minerals. And those are just going to be listed out for you for extra information. Those, most people, especially here if you're on a program, you're getting those from your supplements. So those are just nice to have information about. But that's kind of how you break down the food label. And like I said, paying attention to sugars first. I'm actually going to grab this sheet here. So when it comes to sugar, we have this really nice sugar handout. So this is the 56 different names that sugar can be labeled as. So it's important to know what kind of sugar you're getting and the source that it's coming from. According to the American Heart Association, you should not be consuming more than 25 grams of added sugar a day, and in our opinion, even lower than that would be wonderful too. So like I said, that includes like table sugar or baking sugar, like that sort of things are your added sugars. I wouldn't necessarily put fruit in there unless you are over consuming fruit, then that can affect your health negatively. All right, let's see here. I'm going to go through a couple examples of some not so good labels, okay? So for all my pop drinkers out there, sorry, I'm going to break your heart a little bit. So here is a Coke nutrition label. So this is for a 20-ounce bottle, and the serving size is the whole bottle. So one bottle, 20 ounces. There's no fat, there's some sodium. There are 55 grams of total carbs. So right there, total carbohydrates, 55 grams. And the total number of sugar is also 55 grams. So all of those carbs are coming from sugar, and there's some other chemicals in Coke as well that are very harmful for our health. So 55 grams. So I just said the American Heart Association doesn't recommend anything over 25. So you have already consumed the 2 times the amount, more than that, than the recommended daily dose. And so that will kind of give you that over here. That's 110% of the daily value. So that's something you want to avoid, especially if you're consuming multiple bottles or cans of pop a day. You're getting so much sugar within that product. All right, and then next I'll kind of go over hopping from the actual nutrition label down to the ingredients, which is an important part of the label as well. So this is a Lucky Charms label. Sorry, this is kind of even blurry for me, so I'll just talk about it. But again, here is the nutrition facts, and then the other micronutrients that are synthetically put into the cereal. And then here are the ingredients, okay? So those ingredients over there are listed. So we have things like oats, marshmallows, so right away, sugar, modified cornstarch, corn syrup, dextrose, gelatin, some dyes in there, so yellow 5 and 6, blue 1, red 40, and artificial flavors. So the first 3 ingredients of the marshmallows are 3 different types of sugar. So we have regular sugar, modified, cornstarch, not a sugar, 3, yeah, actually I was right. Okay, corn syrup, and then dextrose, which is a sugar. So anything that ends in os is going to be a sugar, and that's made from corn specifically. And then there's just sugar listed, period. More corn syrup. Let's see here. More colors and flavorings added. So those are going to be chemicals, heavy chemicals that can easily upset the whole digestive system. So those are things we want to be avoiding. So again, this is just in Lucky Charms breakfast cereal. So I know cereal's an easy go-to for breakfast, parents and kids all involved, but this is not a good source of nutrition. There's only 1 gram of fat and 2 grams of protein, but there are 22 grams of carbohydrates, and that is in a fourth of a cup. So I know, at least when I was little, I definitely didn't take a 4th cup and stick it in the box and measure it out. You just kind of pour until it looks good. So 1/4 of a cup has the 10 grams of sugar in it. So if you're eating a cup of Lucky Charms a day, that's 40 grams of sugar added into your diet right from the get-go, right at the beginning of the day. That's gonna almost set you up for failure, because your energy is gonna spike and then it's gonna crash, and you're chronically gonna feel fatigued. Kids are gonna be wired, and then they're gonna be very reactive to their environment, because their blood sugar is gonna spike and then it's gonna drop, and they don't have the control over the emotions like we do as adults. So them having a blood sugar drop is very detrimental for their their temperament and all of that. Okay, so that's how I normally go through a food label at a store. So, starting at the top, looking at serving size, how many servings are in it, and then concentrating on your 3 macronutrients, which again are your fats, your carbs, and your proteins, and focusing on products that are high in good protein and high in good fat. And then from there, hopping down to that ingredients list and just checking out, making sure you can pronounce everything, making sure there's no dyes or extra chemicals that are added for preserving things. That's another common issue. And then also below that, specifically if you have like an allergy or a sensitivity, you can look right in the bold letters and it will say contains, and the main things that they label there are nuts, soy, wheat, and dairy. So if you have a sensitivity to wheat or gluten, it's very easy to identify items that have wheat in them, because it's going to say contains wheat. Same thing with dairy, soy, and nuts. It contains those very obviously. So it's easy to just pop on the back of that label, check that first, and if it contains one of those, you can throw that back on the shelf. All right, everyone, I hope that helps with your food label reading, and we are excited to be here. We're here Monday through Saturday this week, so if you need anything from us, let us know. Again, it is our Patient Appreciation Week, so we are so grateful for you guys and thankful to be helping you all with your health journey. Stay tuned for more videos this week, as we're going to be posting all of our raffle baskets, and there'll be another educational video coming up Thursday, and Dr. Shannon's going to be talking about how to help cope with depression, some tips with that, and what you can do to be preventative about things like that. All right, everyone, have a great day. If you need anything from us, give us a call here at the office. Thanks.